Welcome to the Killer Innovation Show, the longest continuously produced podcast in history. Each week, Phil McKinney brings you the insights and strategies to amplify your creativity and innovation skills. Here's your host, Phil McKinney.
Michael Dell and his investors spent $25 billion to buy back Dell Technologies. But they weren't really buying a company. They were buying freedom from the quarterly earning pressure. I'm Phil McKinney. I'm the former CTO for HP, and I've witnessed how this pressure shaped decisions for years. Today, we're exploring why the Wall Street Journal's recent article, Defense of the Quarterly Reporting, misses what actually happens inside corporate boardrooms. If this type of insight is helpful, I'd encourage you to subscribe for more insights like this and to catch future episodes. But let's get started. I want to show you what quarterly reporting actually looks like from the inside. Now, let me paint you a picture. It's week 7 of the quarter, and you're in the conference room with your executive team. On the screen are two critical numbers: your revenue projection and Wall Street's expectations. And guess what? They don't align. During my time as CTO at HP, I found myself in these situations repeatedly. R&D projects worth billions in future were going to get paused. Innovation initiatives that could transform the company were going to get delayed. Not because they lacked value, but because we had weeks to hit the quarterly numbers. What struck me was how predictable this became. Quarter end approaches, cut the long-term stuff, meet short-term targets. Rinse and repeat. When your stock prices can swing 10% over missing your earnings by 3 cents per share, you optimize for quarterly performance, even when it destroys long-term competitiveness. Now, this is where it gets interesting. One CEO escaped this system entirely. And here's the proof that this system is broken. Michael Dell and Silver Lake Partners paid $24.9 billion for one thing: freedom from quarterly earning pressure, killing Dell's long-term potential. Michael Dell explicitly said no more pulling R&D and growth investments to make in-quarter numbers. Now, what happened next was remarkable. R&D spending jumped just from over about $1 billion to over $4 billion that next year. That's a 400% increase. Dell transferred from a declining PC manufacturer to an enterprise solutions leader. And what was that return on investment by 2023? The return on investment was $70 billion. What Dell did wasn't just corporate restructuring. It was a $25 billion bet that quarterly reporting destroys long-term value. And they were proven spectacularly right. If you've experienced similar pressure at your company, I'd like to hear about it. Drop a comment down below. Now, so with the examples that like Dell showing the impact, why does the Wall Street Journal still support quarterly reporting? The recent Wall Street Journal article points to the UK's optional move from quarterly to semi-annual reporting and notes that companies did not dramatically change behavior. Their conclusion? Quarterly reporting is not the problem. That reasoning ignores a fundamental truth. We've trained an entire generation of infrastructure to think in 90-day cycles. We teach in business schools earnings management. Compensation rewards for senior leaders reward quarterly performance. Analysts' career depend on short-term predictions. Journalists need something to write about, like quarterly results. You don't undo decades of this quarterly mindset simply by making reporting optional. The UK comparison is meaningless without addressing the ecosystem that reinforces short-term thinking. The Wall Street Journal claims big tech's AI investments prove quarterly reporting does not hinder long-term thinking. That argument misses the point completely. Google, Microsoft, Meta, they can hide enormous R&D in their massive profit margins. When you're generating margins of 20 to 30% on hundreds of billion dollars in revenue, you can invest billions in moonshots while still beating quarterly expectations. But what about manufacturing companies with 5% margins? Healthcare companies fighting regulations, emerging tech companies that can't disguise innovation investments. The current system creates a two-tiered economy. Only the most profitable companies can think long-term. Everyone else gets trapped into the quarterly optimization cycles. And that's precisely why this threatens America's competitive future. America's competitive advantage comes from patient, long-term investments in breakthrough innovations like semiconductors, the internet, biotech, all required decades, in some cases multiple decades, of sustained investment. Today's quarterly regime systematically discourages patient innovation. I call it the 50-year overnight success. Transformative innovations that needed sustained investment over many, many decades. Try explaining that to an analyst who wants to know why margins dropped 2% this last quarter. While we optimize for quarters, competitors in China make decade-long investments in critical technologies. We are giving away our innovation advantage. Now, switching to semi-annual reporting solves nothing. It's maybe a minimal step, but it's not the solution. 6 months isn't different enough from 3 months for long-term thinking. 3 reforms I'm going to propose could actually move the needle. First, eliminate forward-looking earnings guidance. This forces public commitments about future performance, creating pressure to hit predictions regardless of maybe better opportunities that emerge in the quarter. Second, separate long-term innovation investments from operational expenses and accounting. Give investors visibility into both current performance and future potential. Third, create metrics and incentives that reward patient capital deployment, not just quarterly performance. The stakes aren't an abstract policy debate. It's about America's economic future. Academic research provides a valuable perspective, but there's often a gap between theory and practice when it comes to corporate decision-making under pressure. In my experience, there's often a significant gap between how these systems work in theory versus reality. The quarterly reporting system creates pressures that can undermine long-term thinking, even when that's not the intention. Next time the Wall Street Journal analyzes corporate behavior, here's an idea. Why don't you talk to somebody who's actually lived it? If these insights were helpful to you, opened up your eyes to the challenges of quarterly reporting for our most important innovations, how about subscribing and hitting that like button? And share it with others. Forward this video on to others. It's the only way we're going to change the fundamental model, because right now, it's broken. I'm curious about your experiences with this. Have you seen quarterly pressure affect decision-making at your organization? And what changes do you think would make the most difference? Well, let's start a conversation in the comments or hop on over to the Substack. Now, for more perspectives on innovation and corporate strategy, you can find them in the links below. And for this particular topic, I have written a full op-ed rebuttal to the Wall Street Journal article that appeared a few days ago over on my Substack publication Studio Notes. The link is in the description if you want the complete deep dive and to see my rebuttal to the Wall Street Journal. Thanks for watching, and remember, the best innovations take decades, not quarters. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Podcasting nonstop since 2005, this has been the Killer Innovation Show on the Innovators Network.